Good morning. Today we're pulling footings for the library and big milestone, first concrete pour on the job. This is happening.
So we had a big town hearing where we asked people, what should we build or what should we not build? And we had a few people who said, you don't need to build at all, just in denial. We had a few people who say, build the absolute minimum, a Quonset hut for the town administration, and that's it. And then we had people who basically said, but we would like tennis courts, and we would like the Taekwondo class, and we would like the pottery class, and we would like the meditation room, and we would like the stage where we could do little plays, and we would like the... Basically, every use came out and kind of advocated its own use, including some uses that were new ones, like a skateboard park, for example. Someone actually seriously suggested a gun range. We had to sit there and decide what we wanted to do. And we decided that the simplest thing to do was to try to replicate the uses that were already on the site. Then the next question was, how are we going to pay for it? Now, most municipalities, if they're going to pay for something like this, will put a bond on the ballot, and they'll live or die by that. But since this was a public safety issue, where the current town center was unsafe, it was becoming a vote between no town center and a bond-supported town center. And we concluded there was enough demand for a town center that we shouldn't create a situation where there was no town center. So if we made this a referendum for whether to do something or not, and the election went with the answer of no, don't do anything, public safety wouldn't allow us to continue doing things, so we'd end up with nothing. Okay? So we said, what else should we, what are our other alternatives? Well, the other alternative was to raise the money with charitable contributions, to go and ask our citizenry for the money. I kind of liked that from a conceptual point of view. I always sort of said, instead of proposing to tax them to pay for it, or to actually use their tax money to pay for it, why don't we just ask them for the money? And then the people who feel that we should do it will give us money, and the people who feel we absolutely shouldn't don't have to give us money, okay? And we don't hit the people who are poor and can't afford it and would vote against it. We only hit the people who want to voluntarily give us the money. So we went and asked a couple of the leading citizens and leading kind of fundraiser savvy people in town, do you think you could raise $17 million? We got like 3 we can afford, but looks like this thing might be 20 or something like that. Do you think you could raise this? And we had people come back and say, if there's any town in the country that can raise that kind of money, it's this town.
It's beyond amazing. Everyone knows that there's many people in Portola Valley that have a great deal of monetary resources, and we've always known that. That's just a given. But to see these people actually contribute, in some cases, really significant amounts of money because they believe in this project is just unbelievable. And you have to hand it to the Portola Valley Community Fund. Those people just went out there and wouldn't take no for an answer, I think. They just decided we were going to do this and we could do this, and there was no reason why we shouldn't be able to do it, and they did. They've raised an enormous, I can't think of any project of this magnitude that will be funded completely from private donations and town reserves. The money that's being donated goes directly to the community fund, and then it's transferred to the town. And last Friday, Stacy went and picked up a $6 million check from them and brought it to here and put it into our bank account, and it was like, wow, here's a $6 million check.
What did it look like?
You know, the green part happened, I think, before. Now green is like the hottest commodity. I mean, but it even wasn't 6 months ago. The town's always been doing sort of green things. I mean, there's a 75-point checklist of green things you can do right now if you want to build a house that they want you to do. But I really don't know how the green thing came in, except that it was always the town's philosophy. I do remember sitting on the council when it came up as to whether or not we should go for LEED status, you know. And there were people who opposed that, even one of the council members. I was very enthusiastic after learning about it. And we have gotten even more into it as we've gone down the project. As you know, the deconstruction process, the recycling of you know, beams and glue joints, and you know, grinding up the foundation. So they've gotten more and more into it. Now they're even going to use eucalyptus that's grown locally for the floor in the MUR.
It's a trendy thing to do. We have to be careful that it isn't a, you know, fiscally irresponsible trendy thing to do. That's the one issue. The one thing I'm learning about the process, though, is that maybe 5 or 10 years ago it was excessively expensive to be very green. It's now become pretty mainstream. And so the price is not significantly higher, and if you do it green, your maintenance costs, your lifetime costs are lower as well. So the end result is, I don't think it's any longer there's not a big economic price. It's just a question of commitment to do it.
Obviously, if you put photovoltaic panels on your roof, it's going to cost more than not putting them on. And if you look at it just from the idea of, well, how many years will it take to pay back at current utility rates, all those kind of questions, yeah, it takes a while. It does pay back. Almost all of these things pay back eventually. Some of the things like using wood from a well-managed forest, which may cost 10% more than wood from a non-managed forest, well-managed forest, it doesn't pay back in dollars, but I don't think you can look at it that way anymore. I mean, people don't buy a car and look at the payback. They buy a car because they need a car. There's not a sense of, well, if I walked instead, I'd save this much money. That's not even a consideration. So I think we have to get out of that idea that the payback in dollars over the traditional way of doing things is the right way to look at it.
Frankly, if we'd done a tilt slab kind of buildings, like the office buildings that are built down in the Silicon Valley or something like that, we could have done this for half this price probably, okay? And would have had to only raise half the money. We'd already have the money raised and we'd be there. We set out to do something special. And frankly, it all kind of danced together because the fundraisers found doing something special was easier to fundraise than doing something cheap, okay? And we had people who gave us millions of dollars in order to be green and sustainable, specifically earmarked for green and sustainable. Money we wouldn't have gotten otherwise if we'd done it on the cheap.